Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Further, we just have the two agenda items today, the instructional material selection evaluation procedures, and then a closed session to review the early graduation requests of the students. For the last board meeting, we got together, took the ideas or the requests from the policy committee and put those concepts together into the policy under the option 2, because our feeling was that was the easiest way to just combine them with the new language. Option 2 was our previous policy, and it was adding in the bulk of the components were from option 3, I believe, which was that lengthier one, but we and Julie, up to you if we just want to go through that section by section. The blue represents new language, black is the prior language, and then obviously if there's any striking, it's because it's either been replaced or not relevant to that section now because of that replacement. So,
yeah, I mean, I have, as I've had the opportunity to kind of give this some more thought and read through it a little bit more, I've there's some other things that I would like to see happen. One of the things that was stricken was to provide materials that encourage critical thinking and problem solving. And I didn't see anywhere where that was that language was retained in the new language, and I think it's important to maintain that.
Is that under the selection portion?
It was under objectives. It was originally under objectives. It wasn't under selection.
Oh, all right. So part of the discussion that we had in here, and I think the reason why this, and we can certainly restructure or unstrike, part of this was wanting to focus, because we have a separate material, like instructional materials policy. And so it was redundant because, correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, I know Sarah just stepped out, but the sentiment was wanting to focus this one on library selection materials. And then the instructional materials, keep it to that one. I think that's why
is that part at the end? Is there a section at the end that talks about
that's why this piece was recommended to strike, but we can
down at the bottom, if you go down to like what page is that? It's hard to know what page it is, but toward the bottom, like second to last page, there's some criteria for the selection of materials.
So then option 3 isn't.
So yeah, it would be under option. Well, it was very confusing. Honestly,
we could, when you look at selection criteria, we could add meets high. We could add like and problem solving in as one of those descriptors.
Yeah, I just don't want to lose that language of providing materials that encourage critical thinking and problem solving.
So that would go into here.
Go up under selection criteria. Yep, right there.
Yeah.
Looks like it would fit like right after either 2 or 3.
Okay, so it was from the materials section, which one, so I can just.
I just plunked it in there, James.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks good.
All right. You got that, Jody.
While we're talking about selection criteria, there's a few other things that I wanted to kind of address on there. I'm a little confused, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jody, did these came from Neola, or where did we get this language? I'm trying to remember.
I believe this was pulled from some library resources.
Yes,
Right?
American Library System.
Okay, okay. So I'm a little. I need a little bit more definition for number 9, provide a global perspective. And promote diversity by including materials by authors and illustrators of all cultures. I think I understand that statement, but I do not, this is America. And I don't want to lose an emphasis on American perspective and American culture. I mean, yes, it's important to have those different, thoughts from around the world, but this is America. And I just want to make sure that we're promoting American ideals.
Yep.
And not global ideals.
I agree, couldn't agree more.
Yes, those other perspectives should certainly be included, but I think there should be an emphasis on American, and I guess what kind of triggered that for me was that we struck number C, to provide materials that have a broad spectrum of multicultural groups and their contributions to our American heritage.
We could replace that language. It would.
And not that we have to use that language that was used, but it just kind of sparked something in me. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, we're like removing our American perspective from and focusing more on a global perspective. And
Where's the language of the one that was stricken from our original?
It's underneath C, right
in
there.
that same, yeah, that one right there.
Mhm.
Language better?
So I don't know what the right way is to rewrite that or if we just use what we had, but I don't know.
Just replace, take C and replace it with whatever number that was.
I like that, because when you say American culture and, that focus, I would, well, what makes America great, I think, is the cultural diversity that we do have. in America.
Absolutely.
And even in our own region and area, and how many different backgrounds and heritages we all come from.
It kind of jumped out at me. I'm like, okay, we're removing the American heritage and kind of replacing it with global, and I
Sure.
just was not comfortable with that.
Great pickup, Julia.
On the second of the last page, item H, under the Neola policy, that's where they kind of have that, what we're talking about stated there, and maybe you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
glance
No,
at that. Yeah, keep going to the second last page.
Yep. I see that now. Yeah, and I think that's where I was a little confused as to
Okay.
which one are we using or working off of?
Yeah, I agree.
Same. That's third.
No, that's why we're doing this, and that's perfectly all right. I like that.
Do we like the Neola one better because that clarifies
Yeah, let me
what we're leaning into by authors and illustrators of all cultures?
I generally liked the Neola the best. If we had to pick one, I think Neola was.
Well, Neola is, that language is, because there is a state statute that requires libraries to have that representation,
Right.
so.
right.
But I think either language, either from the old, well, we did adopt Neola, which is a different position, so we probably, shouldn't.
Right, so is H from that second to last page, is that part of the Neola language? It is, okay. So I would be okay,
But I thought that was the one you didn't like.
no, the one that
H, provide a global perspective.
no, that one's.
that reflect the pluralistic nature of American society, like that,
Right.
that ties it all together. I
Correct,
think.
that ties it together, because the one before said nothing about America.
Okay,
Right.
okay. So I was just.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let Jody grab that one minutes. Okay.
Um, um,
We want to work off of the Neola and then. Ed, I'd like your feedback here too, because this was a little bit confusing, having all the different options.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought, working off option 2, I think is fine. Neola had a lot of things in there that I know that we would just strike out, so I assume we were working off of option 2, so that's kind of what I focused in on.
so Jody, does option 2, like the what's at the beginning, is that? Was that ours with Neola's modifications, or how was?
So option 2 is our policy with the addition of adding the language found in
In
the
the,
resource that Sarah mentioned.
okay, so it's not incorporating Neola's.
Correct.
Language. What's incorporating Neola's language is at the end?
So
Or-
so at the end was using Neola's template, so it's titled option 1 is the Neola model that we had briefly gone through and marked up some of the changes that we wanted to propose to the
I
committee.
see. Okay, so. I guess I'm understanding now.
Yeah.
Option 1 is at the end.
Yes.
Okay,
So we said after the last meeting that we liked the stuff from option 3.
Right.
and Moved into.
right,
Option 2.
got it.
The committee liked that, but we also hadn't approved it.
We hadn't
approved it.
Transition.
Neola yet.
Neola
Yep.
yet.
Yep.
Now, when what we saw from Neola, when Neola does their packages and we go through, they'll have like. Here's language and you check the boxes of the portions of language that you want. They'll have like, here's the mandatory core.
Mhm.
And then you can click on boxes to add other components. So what we're looking at from that Neola sample may not be the full menu of language. Now, we can always review that. We
Right,
can review it again down the road.
right,
I think the important piece is that we incorporate the challenge components to it, because that's unique and different from what
right,
Neola's language has.
right,
Um,
right,
so
okay.
You'll have all the clothes still.
we could go back and just use the Neola one and do like a replace, but then add in the challenge relevant language. Or we can just approach the policy as we are,
Yeah.
and then when we go through, because that's gonna be a 2-year
Right,
process.
I
plus
think
to
at
go
this
through
point,
all
let's
this.
just keep going in the manner that
We are.
we are. If you're okay with that, Ed?
Yeah, I am, the policies, it's referencing, other things that we don't have in place yet.
Right,
So, yeah, let's just focus on option 2 if we can, and then I'll pull in language where it makes sense to from these other examples.
yeah, okay. Anything that either of you two had, that you wanted to, I have a few other things, but I don't want to dominate the conversation, so. Anything else that you guys wanted to,
So are we just going off of option 2 then? Is that my
the
understanding?
the top,
Modify the
Yeah.
option to.
Yep.
How you want.
I'd kind of like to, stick with, like, make sure that we're good with the selection criteria before we move on to other areas, because I have other areas that I want to address, but. Anything that you have, Emma? Otherwise, I'll continue, but
No, just generally speaking, I think, the gifts and donations thing, I'd like to see something about. Is that reviewed, or is there any oversight on that, or like when we accept,
I think it,
is
There's
it,
a line.
there is something?
yeah, there,
Yeah.
it says that it has to, it has to go
Okay.
through the same selection criteria across, yeah, all right.
But yes,
On the second page.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. That was my only major note.
I'm trying to remember. I looked at this extensively yesterday and 7 minutes because my brain's been fried already today, so, File 817. Oh,
I'll
God.
give you a second. The, the number 7, represent differing viewpoints on controversial issues.
Which section?
The
The
selection
selection
criteria.
criteria.
I just had a note to just put that into the atmosphere here and talk about it, representing differing viewpoints on controversial issues. Is there,
Might not have the right spot.
No, you are, you're right there.
represent differing
It's number 8.
viewpoints?
Oh,
No.
No,
oh, that's 13.
There you go. I know the Roman
There you go.
numerals are.
Yeah.
that's weird. I have it different on my.
And Jody added one up there, so it dropped it down.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, you're right. She just added
What
it.
happens when you print things out? Joe?
No.
Don't get the updates. No, I just had a note to bring that up. If there's, do we want to have, if we're representing different viewpoints on controversial issues, do we want to say, is that like a 1-to-1 different viewpoint, or if we have, I know,
This is probably
the
the
Neola
issue.
version.
Yeah,
It's a little bit gentler, represent differing viewpoints on issues of interest.
Oh, is that what the Neola one says?
Mhm.
Does that sound like what we're trying to communicate?
and because I don't. I don't know, I don't even.
That,
I mean, I think a perfect
on a
example
practical
is,
standpoint, it would
you know,
be impossible.
right,
Right.
because
And I don't,
interest in controversy, like, we have probably have biography books about Taylor Swift in the elementary library, right? That is a topic of interest.
Right,
Nobody would have thought this would have become a controversial
right.
subject
Right.
at the time of purchase. So I
Right.
think if we could change it to issues of interest or topics of interest.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
yeah,
nobody can.
see, I
I
can,
do like
it's
that.
so open-ended though, that I have concerns over. I don't know. How you define what's a controversial issue, what's
so,
like. And I hate to pick, if anyone here is a flat earther, I apologize ahead of time, but is that a controversial issue or not? So do we need to have, if there's a parent's like, hey, this is all a conspiracy and this should be, if Kyrie Irving, says, I want to put out my flat earth book that I'm going to sponsor because I believe the earth is flat and it's a big conspiracy. Is that a controversial issue? And are we required to put a
right,
book in there, which is
right.
overwhelmingly, most people wouldn't consider controversial. So what triggers it becoming controversial or not?
Right,
Or
totally, I 100% agree.
I mean, it's open enough that it's represents differing viewpoints.
Right.
I couldn't define that for you. I couldn't say
Right.
what is.
What if we took
Pretty
that
much
out?
everything is controversial.
What if we took out the word controversial issues and just said represents differing viewpoints? Period.
I like that.
Mhm.
Right,
sure.
and I liked the topics of interest, like what how Neola had it worded too. Yeah, I like that better.
Yeah, much better.
I just always had a hard time with just like, who defines
Yes, right.
this or that. or
Yes.
what- I mean, yeah. Okay.
I'm probably going to get burned at the stake for this one, but I'm
We
gonna-
didn't create any of this language, so nobody.
Yeah.
There's no mission.
No, I know, but no, but I'm going to suggest something
Okay.
that is probably going to be, let's use the word controversial. But I feel like it needs to be said. I like all of these selection criterias. It's written in a very positive, it's from a positive standpoint. And I don't like getting into what isn't allowed in material, but I feel like at this point in time, we need to make a statement that says our material does not contain pornographic material. We don't allow it from an internet-based issue. We block those websites. We block, we don't allow that on our schools' laptops. I think it is highly inappropriate to have pornographic material available to our kids through the library, whether that be visual or whether it be descriptive. And we can come up with the wording that indicates how we want to state that with regard to how it's written, but it does not have any place in schools' libraries. And there it is. So I don't know how the rest of you guys feel about that, but
Thank you for saying it. I agree with you. I do agree with you.
I'm good with that too, as well. Julia.
Well, I don't know if it's bold to say, this isn't to downplay that.
Yeah.
I think everybody would agree, well, of course, schools shouldn't have pornographic material. That's not, I don't think that would be debatable. I think it comes to, well,
how is it defined?
Yeah,
how do you
exactly.
define and what is the standard
Right,
from the guidance standpoint that's
right,
to be utilized or that the librarians or instructors
Right.
could utilize, because what's that standard would perhaps vary greatly from one individual to another, if that makes sense. I mean, even I believe the court definition of pornography is they haven't clearly defined it, they just say you know it when you see it. Is that accurate
right.
from a legal standpoint?
Yes, and I think traditionally pornography has been defined as a visual thing, but I think the written description of what people see is the same thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know how to write that definition to make it definable.
Well, the definition on Microsoft Bing says printed or visual material containing the explicit description or display of sexual organs or activity intended to stimulate erotic rather than aesthetic or emotional feelings.
Right,
That's the,
So intended to stimulate a ride.
right. So I realize there's books
So like
that
I'll say
describe,
like the kite runner is about an Afghan young man who experienced a sexual assault,
a sexual assault is different
which
because,
would not have been an erotic
correct,
writing of the
correct,
book or the term. It's not meant to stimulate sexual, it's.
Correct.
Yeah.
so I would not define that situation as pornography. That is a lived experience.
I just think it's really important because I think there's people in the community that would say, well, that's pornographic.
I'm sure there are.
Sexual.
So how do we combine what you just said?
Yeah.
So about pornographic material with the intent to provide erotic
Right,
yeah,
resources or whatever we want to say, because you're right, that, I think that's where,
Correct.
that's the phrasing that needs to be
Yes.
attached to what your thoughts are.
yes,
And then I think that,
and that's where I'm trying to go with.
because you're right, we're gonna stumble onto some reading lists for AP classes
Yes.
there that,
Yes,
but, it certainly isn't, that content isn't provided for erotic pleasure.
correct, And I definitely want to make a distinction between that, but,
What was that definition, Anna? That was,
I just Googled it, a definition of pornography on Microsoft and Bing. Whatever. Data from Oxford language.
and I pray that you don't start getting all kinds of stuff
So
sent to you.
I was
I haven't
gonna,
searched it on my computer.
I'm like, I am not opening that with a ton
I was
of.
gonna Google just pornography and I deleted it and I said definition of. Yeah. And it's in school Wi-Fi.
this is from,
All of a sudden alerts coming up
Yeah.
down the hall at Randy's office.
I'll just- This one's, it says Oxford language.
Arian Webster. Is that, I mean, that's pretty much the same definition. The depiction of erotic behavior as in pictures or writing intended to cause sexual.
Jody, can you help me computer? How do I share that?
I can go, and if you want the exact, if you like the other one better, we just find the Oxford.
I don't know how.
Just go to your email now
Okay.
and do Control V and send a quick email to Jason. Or myself.
Yeah, just send it to Jody and she can put it on.
I'm not gonna title this email.
I don't have it yet.
Copy that. And put it right in here. And paste it right.
Oh, I have it now.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
What do you think, Ed?
I'm good with that.
Um.
All right, was there anything else in the selection?
I think that was it
Yes.
for me. On that section. How about you, Ed?
I'm good. I don't have any more comments on the selection criteria.
Okay. Um. And then the library acquisition procedures. Anybody have any comments on that? I just, I'd love to know, how often do the librarians review material that is no longer used? You know, like, do they take a look at what's being checked out and what isn't and
Each
summer?
annually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so I give them. Oh, they used to like shut the libraries down the last 2 weeks of school, get all the books in. I know, that's what I always thought, because they have to inventory them. They have to inventory them and do the weeding and all of that.
Okay.
So what I did is, you know, this was years ago, I said, look, we don't want to shut the libraries down. let's teach to the end, I'll give you extra time to do your inventory then. So they
Okay.
submit
Okay,
for extra time at the end of
Okay.
the year to go through and do the inventory and the weeding. They look at their, checkout rates or circulation rates, just like the public libraries do, and see what's still relevant.
so when we take books out, what are we doing with them? Where do they go?
I'm sure they donate them. I don't know where.
Oh.
Do they donate them to the public
Yeah,
library?
it's
I'm not sure. Yeah.
We don't talk about that, that's like Bruno, we don't talk about Bruno.
Well, and
That's
some are just not even, especially if it's
Old enough
non-fiction,
to
some may
be-
not be
Yeah.
relevant or
Right.
accurate,
Right.
anymore, similar to our old textbooks, sometimes have to be.
Yeah.
I would have to go back and ask,
Okay.
but that's where the library, there's this big faux pas, which I get, and they,
Yeah,
about throwing away.
Got it.
books or anything like that, and so I would have to double check.
I just wondered what that happened.
I know, like the main library, they try to set them out to say, hey,
Yeah.
anybody that wants the books,
Yeah.
and they do eventually. When they're not useful or relevant, they. Go by the wayside.
Okay. And Adam, I think under the new language for gifts and donations. It says. They will be determined using the same selection criteria as purchase materials, so are you good with that?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess the next section is the reconsideration of library materials. Talked a lot about that last time. One thing, I took a look at the form that has to be filled out. I felt like there was maybe not. I think it needs to go a little further. I don't think it addresses everything that we want it to. So like 11 and 12 are open-ended answers, but I think we need to be more specific in what we're asking them to put down. Like what concerns you about the resource? Well, let's take that a little bit further and say, please cite specific areas, that,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's too
Give
open-ended
you
of a
specific
question.
examples to support.
What concerns you
Yeah.
about the resource, and why do you feel it's a violation in our library
Or
and
library
material
policy,
selection
Right.
policy? Yeah, because really, it's just because I don't like the book, or I don't like the, it shouldn't be. It
Right,
should be in violation of our policy or our standard.
yeah, what sections are,
Yeah.
you feel are violating our policy or, yeah. So I just feel like the form didn't go quite, it needs to go a little further. It has to be a little more specific.
Okay.
Could we make those like a drop down? Is it too vague to? Like in number 7, how we have options there, can we provide a handful of options? So what concerns you about this resource could be, we'll have 5 boxes, it was. Whatever we decide, or do we want to leave it open-ended? You know what I mean?
I don't wanna lead the individual on,
To restrict them.
or restrict them.
Okay.
I'd like to leave it open-ended, but at the same time, ask them to be more specific. If that makes sense.
I think it would be fair to add, please cite specific examples from the text to support your concerns.
Yes.
Sure.
And maybe page numbers?
Mhm.
Well, although different printings,
But still, it would help us
yeah,
find that passage quicker if we're page numbers.
right. Different printings are gonna have different page numbers, so I don't know if that's helpful or not, but.
Chapter.
Yeah, maybe chapter, that's it, yeah, there we go. So another question that popped, I didn't write it down. Oh. Oh no, that's in there. I don't know, maybe I'll think of it, but that was the one thing that I can remember today.
I have a comment on the top at the first, right at the top of the page. I think we just want to clarify, I know it says it in the policy, but you're just listing any adult citizen. We want to add in that the language where it's, you know, that you live within the school district.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. Maybe that was one thing that, let's like have them, yeah, state that they live
Just
with,
consist, more, you know, want to
Yeah.
be very consistent
Yeah,
with their
consistent.
policy. So,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. I think Sarah, you have that document,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
the other question I had, on the curriculum council, are you gonna want to tie in that group with this policy at all, or have you guys thought about that?
I do
No.
not want to,
Okay,
I think library resources and curriculum are two very different things.
okay, I just wanted to get your, input on it so that.
Yeah.
We
if it-
brought it up last time, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the feeling that you
Yep.
guys expressed that you wanted it to be a board decision, because this would be a third, well. It'd be reviewed, but it'd go to the board at the third level instead of.
Right.
Yeah, okay, nope, we're good then.
I mean, certainly there's curriculum resources in the library, but
Mhm.
not every book that's in the library is a curriculum resource.
Agreed.
I'd say the vast majority aren't used for specific
Right,
curriculum.
right.
All right,
The only other thing that I've been thinking about, and I'm just feeling like. If you guys disagree with me, I'm totally okay with that. But I just wanted to throw it out there. That the request for reconsideration reaching 10 submissions being the trigger of when it gets reviewed. I feel like it's a little high. I don't know what the right number is. The number that kind of feels more appropriate for me is 5, but because I feel like there still needs to be more than one person, you know, having that much control over that, but I also feel like 10 is maybe a little high. So I don't know what the other two of you feel.
I actually have that circled as well. The number 10 and the 5 years, those two numbers are, I would question as well. I think 10 is too high. And then this question B would be why did we have 5 years? I don't remember how we got to 10. Didn't we break it down?
We were
we
at
started
higher.
like.
We were much higher.
25, yeah, and
We came down to 10. 10 is still, I agree with you, 10 is still.
What are your thoughts, Ed? I don't know.
What I would suggest is 5 submissions within 60 days of the first submission. I think you need to put in a time
Oh, yes, I
constraint.
like that.
So like 5 submissions within 60 days of the first submission. And I think we just say if there are no, 4 other submissions, the request, goes dormant, or however you
Right,
want to word that, but.
yeah,
That's a great.
I like
call.
putting a time frame on it. Because I think I had that question in my own mind too, is like, well, so,
Yeah.
how many
Years could go
years?
by.
Yeah.
By before, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm good with that. What was your issue with the 5 years before you request?
So real quick, so 5 in 60 days, and 60 days that's a fair number for that.
But I think 5 is a little low, that's pretty
You
easy
feel
to
like-
get a group of. People, but if they're reading, if they're taking it in the entire context, because I think that was a very important, critical part of it.
Thank you. That was the other thing that I wanted to have on the form.
It is on the form of the signature
signature.
line, but it only says that I've reviewed it,
Okay.
because there's
I'm-
multiple
entirety.
different, in its entirety, right?
Okay, I'd like to have that maybe a little bit more of a prominent thing on the form that you're stating that I have read. You know, when you fill out that form, you're actually either checking a box or something that they're, because I didn't even see it on the form.
Well, it's part of the signature
Yeah.
spot.
If I sign this form, I verify that I've reviewed the entire resource. I said,
Yeah, so if,
Oh.
and that's why there's different resources, so we're looking for what word covers it all.
Yeah,
But the intent as it was related to books, wasn't that you, yeah, I opened up and you did it. That doesn't necessarily mean that I really didn't understand the context and what the author was
right.
getting at. And my understanding was that was kind of the board's intent, was that it was that they understood the full picture, that they didn't just
Right,
grab snippets.
correct. And so. I don't know, is that?
Read and or review.
Hmm,
Do you want a checkbox there along with the signature? Make
Yeah,
sure nothing
I
gets skipped
completely
over?
missed
Yeah.
that
Okay.
sentence on there.
I would like to know.
I'd
if
like
they-
it to be like a physical checkbox that
Yeah,
so that they consciously know that they are admitting to having reviewed the entire resource that's in question.
I also think, speaking of the timeliness, I think we should put timelines. At least for submission of appeals,
Yeah.
like letter C and letter
Yep,
D,
yep.
or letter E.
Yeah, I agree.
And it may sound, I don't know, insensitive, but I think those timelines need to be. Because there's not a lot of work or burden on the individual if they want to choose to appeal it. So I think there should be a restriction on that timeline, but not necessarily on. You know, within the board or the appeals group calendars, because that
Mm-hmm.
work may not, yeah, based on what's going on, to be frank, at that point.
Mhm.
Yeah, I prefer to leave that open-ended, so that could be set around the calendars and the work that's.
I agree.
Do we want to say within the,
I would say within 20 days, that's a full month, within 20 business days,
which one are we talking about?
like
Yeah.
letter C,
Oh, for appeal?
right?
Yeah. So the individual, if they don't like the principal's decision, they have 20, whatever you want to
20
say,
business days to appeal. the-
20 business days to appeal. Okay, that's fine.
And same for letter E then?
Yeah, I would make it the same, right? For letter E. What about letter B? The principal shall review the objections and review the material when completing their study. Do we want to put any kind of timeline on that, like within the
That
calendar?
would trigger when there's. You're saying you want 5 submissions instead of 10, or, and you're so.
Well,
discussing that?
that's a number that I had thrown out there. I just.
So I don't think, there's not a timeline needed for the principal, because they'll review it when it gets the. Number of submissions. 'Cause we put within
Right.
60 days. Well, we're gonna add within 60 days of the first submission.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I would say a lower number than within that timeline, so
Yeah.
five within 60.
You wanna inverse it 5 within 60 and then 10 years? I don't know what your friend was on the years.
Yeah, so I mean, I literally circled and.
Well, the
wrote black.
Neola one said 30 and we all agreed that that was just too extreme.
No, that was,
Look at that was it. No, that was mine.
Oh, that was yours?
I thought once in a generation. And it's not like the book has changed. That was my rationale, was once in a generation, but yeah, no.
So were you comfortable with a higher number there, Adam?
I
Or
was just wondering, I didn't remember what we were, how we
that
got.
was the American Library Association.
5 was, okay,
Suggestion.
all right.
But 10 is great too. Do I have like 15 years?
You don't use it.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not like we have a lot of these anyway. I don't.
yeah, I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that, Ed, for the reconsideration?
I think 5 years makes sense. I don't think you want to go longer than that. And I don't think, 3 isn't long enough, so I'm good with the 5.
I guess I don't have a strong opinion
I don't either.
on that.
I was just wondering why.
Because they don't have my suggestion on 30 and Sarah pointed out.
Actually, I'm tired of dust.
It's just things change,
Right,
right?
right.
You know?
Yeah, look how much things have changed just in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else that any of you guys had?
I'm good for myself, Julia.
Okay,
So we'll update those, we'll update the form and then take it to the board for the first reading at the next meeting.
I think so.
Is everyone comfortable if I wipe out those other options?
Yeah, because it's getting into like confusing.
Please do.
Helpful with.
And like we said, once we start going through the Neola review process, this is gonna come up again. We can
Yeah.
retake a look at it and,
Yep.
yeah.
Living that.
It's good.
All right.
Are you guys, how are you guys feeling about these things?
I feel very
Okay,
I think it's good, and we've talked about now morphing some of these processes and procedures and moving that back to instructional materials
okay,
as well. So if
Okay.
there's a
yeah,
concern,
right,
we have a similar policy with,
yeah.
say, a textbook or
Mhm.
a website or things like that.
I think it covers the components that we need. I am on that 15 on that language, there's a lot of. I wish there was a way to pin it down so there wasn't at least perceived subjectivity in that. But I don't
Yeah.
know, because books don't have a consistent rating system across the board and so forth. It's something I've talked to the legislators about. and
Yeah,
When they reached out, I had a
Right.
couple Republican representatives that aren't from our area that reached out, hey, what's going on? What can we do to help? And I said, require a rating system
yeah,
for the books.
it
That
certainly
will
would be
nullify or at least help
right,
even the discussion
it would be,
nationally. And I don't know if it's just because Wisconsin's too small and you see states like California will mandate things. I'll just use them as an example too. Manufacturers or publishers, Texas does it too. Where they'll just say, if you want to sell it in our state, it has to be like this. And they're big enough that the
Yeah.
publisher's like, okay, well, we've got to
yeah,
figure that out. And they just do it. I'm guessing we're just not big enough as
Right.
a state to force that. But that's what my request was, is
yeah,
even the library association, they're like, oh, we can be so helpful as a resource. No, they don't. They're like, oh, we'll send you all these they don't have the reviews, they don't have
There
recommended.
wasn't age
Ratings.
ratings, there's
No.
something.
There's nothing like that exists.
wow,
So,
well,
so it creates a challenge. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying,
I-
until they get their crap together
you know,
in the literacy.
Not at all.
All right,
Thanks for that.
Yeah,
yeah. All right, then we just have adjourned to closed session. So I guess we need a motion to do that. So we have on the record. Really?
Yes.
I'll move to adjourn to closed session. The policy committee will not reconvene in open session. All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.